Well, let's jump in, and I'm going to move through this pretty fast. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things. Of course, you all have received the graphics. I'm not sure about that one's not
You want
going.
me, you want me to click it and you?
No, I was just looking to see what that screen was doing. Uh-oh,
No, I didn't.
we just lost all our screens.
It's,
It'll come back, I think. Maybe.
I haven't seen a fuzzy screen like that in forever.
Hold on a second. We're having technical difficulties.
Do I need to unplug and plug back in?
I'm not sure which cord did you?
One. Fix that. I do it all the time. It's my fault.
YouTube taught me.
Well, we lost our screens. Sorry, bear with us for 1 second.
Undo it.
No. You gotta reset it back. Just talk for a second.
Okay. No, they can talk to each other.
Learn how to fiddle real quick. Yeah, she's here.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, I was like 3 minutes late.
I know, I had to.
I'm not gonna lie,
I was in the kitchen.
I was struggling to get my chili in the car and I was like, well, I don't want to pour it all in there and it just spill in the car, which I mean, it's not gonna hurt it by any means, but.
It would hurt the chili.
So I was like, well, I'll just do the meat and the onions, cause I gotta cook that first and then I'll add the stuff. I almost fell walking out my door. It was construction right in front of my house. No, your what video? Are y'all the noodles and chili kind of people or no noodles and chili kind of people?
No noodles is the preference, but I'll eat it either way for me.
Chili's like cornbread, like that's your like car.
No noodles ever.
No noodles ever. Oh, did you put noodles in? No, I actually prefer noodles, but my family does.
All right, we're back in business. Okay, so what I want to talk about, again, I'm gonna go through these stats fairly quickly. No real surprises here. Just note the total number of sales through last Friday, looking at the Owensboro market, sitting at 86 sales. So we're gonna finish somewhere. Of course, this is a short week. Basically, the month's over after tomorrow. So we're probably gonna finish somewhere in the 110-ish range for the Owensboro. And of course, we did 151 in October and 132 in September. And all the markets are roughly the same. You can see here in Elizabethtown, 352 sales through last Friday with 566 in October and 427 in September. Again, you'll kind of see, definitely a low month. And then looking at Evansville, 1,932 versus almost 3,000 in October and 2,600 in September. And then Henderson, 25, and then they did 31. So they're actually on target to hit about the same. And then Louisville isn't as far behind as the others, being 800 versus October, 1,100, almost 1,200, and then about the same amount in August. So safe to say, and it's what I kind of wanted to open with this, is what are you all seeing in the market? Like, what are people saying? Are people just not answering the phone, or are they just not interested? Like, somebody tell me, because I know this group does a lot of lead generation. Like, what are y'all hearing and seeing in the market right now?
A lot of weakness, like buyers that just want to see like 30 or 40 homes or, or something, like they're just being super picky. I don't know if they're very motivated. And then like interest rates, I'm still getting so many questions about interest rates, like when I think it will drop. People asking if where we can see the fours, and I don't know, it just seems like the same.
Yeah.
Like that, I've been getting that question so much.
Yeah, so for everybody who's online, in case you couldn't hear that, it was buyers are being more picky in regards to finding the home. And then I was also on a call with a bunch of Columbus agents earlier, and they kind of said the same thing, that they're even getting more repair requests than they have. And if you think about it, housing affordability continues to go up or go down, meaning it's less affordable now. So buyers are being more picky. And then the interest rates, I'm starting to hear that a little bit in agents that I'm talking to, that we keep getting asked when the interest rates are going to go down. And we're going to talk, I'm going to circle back to that here in a minute because I got some new information on that. Anybody else hearing or seeing anything different? What about from like seller side? Like when you're reaching out to people about potentially selling their house, what is are you hearing, oh, I'm just going to wait, I'm not interested? What are y'all hearing from that side?
Wait till after the holidays, or, well, that didn't sell, so why should I?
Yeah. So, and I think that that's going to be part of it, is people are going to start paying attention to days on market more and more, which is why we highlight that inside of here, and understanding, what's going on. And anytime the buyers are less motivated, whether individually or buyers as a whole, that means listings are going to sit longer. So we might have to have some upfront conversations around days on market. What is it going to take to sell in this market? Now, the holidays, obviously, over the next week, don't really expect to see much activity. That doesn't mean you quit doing what you need to do, right? That just means like our showings and stuff like that might not be as high as on our listings. But I was reading something, I think I talked about it a little bit last week. The months of or years of a presidential election, the first 2 weeks of December have on average 6 to 8% more activity than any other December. So I think we're kind of in we had the election, everybody was ramped up for that. You have the shock and awe of the results of the election, no matter which side you're on. 50% are happy, 50% are unhappy, and that kind of slows things down. Usually by December, the people who were actively looking but have some sort of reservations about buying or selling due to political stuff, usually they start to get over the emotions of that and then start to act from there. So just keep that in mind.
Too, like people are like, okay, my plan for next year is this.
Yeah.
They go ahead around Christmas time and Thanksgiving and start planning.
Start doing the planning. Yeah. So it's more important than now. Yeah. To reach out and have the conversations to build the pipelines, even though people might not be ready to transact in this moment, the conversations will make sure that you're top of mind when they are ready to transact. And we're going to talk about that in our training portion here in a minute. All right, good stuff. So let's talk mortgage rates, because Julie had brought that up, as well as I've heard that from a couple other people. And this is going to be good information. First of all, last week, a little over 7% for our conventional, 6.4 for our FHAs and VAs. We did get an ever so slight relief, looking at 6.9 for fixed rates, 6.25 for FHA, and 6.27 for VA. So they did come down 1/10 of a point, but everybody keeps asking, when are they going to go down? Whether it's when are they going to go into the 4s or when are they going to go into the 5s and things like that. Well, I did some studying on that last night, and MBA, which is Mortgage Bankers of Association, just revised their 2025 forecast. This is hot off the press as of yesterday. They now expect mortgage rates to range between 6.4 and 6.6 in 2025, while holding steady at 6.3 in 2026. But prior to yesterday's revision, they were saying 5.9 to 6.2 in 2025 with 5.9 in 2026. So they ultimately revised it upwards by about 0.5%. Now, I've read the details of the article in this. This is 100% a reaction to basically Trump being elected president. They don't have as much confidence that the Fed's going to reduce rates at as fast of a pace as what they were originally planning. But what I wanted to share this with you, and again, we'll send this out, of course. This is the information to give those buyers and sellers that are, I'm just waiting until interest rates drop. Well, guess what? That's not happening. So you can either go now, especially from a buyer standpoint, we can go and find something now, knowing that the interest rates aren't going to significantly change over the course of the next year. That way you're not paying more for the house, because the expected appreciation is still 4.5% for next year, which means if they wait until this time next year, they're going to be paying 5% more. And if you look at the average sales price of around $200,000, regardless of what area you're in, that's basically a $10,000 difference. So you can use those types of stats to help you in your conversations when you're talking to people. Okay? And then I also wanted to look at sales. So we also got revised home sales, which means basically the new estimate on where we thought, where I guess these people thought that sales would finish for 2024. And the new total is 4.71 million. That's down from 4.77 million. Looking at our local markets, I think the predicted number that we have in the market stats is pretty much spot on for each location. But this is, and I was actually reading this in a separate article, this is the lowest actual sales since 1995, which means it's lower than 2008, which is when the major banking mortgage collapse happened, right? So congratulations to all of you for surviving what is going to historically prove to be one of the toughest years in real estate. The good news is,
You can only go up from here.
yeah.
I mean, like, if you made it, you can only go up.
Yeah, and you look at the trend, I mean, from 2021, of course, that's COVID, 771 down to 641, down to 666. And then we improved slightly I'm sorry, these are new builds, these are total. So 7.4, then going slightly up. So we're looking at, what is that? Roughly 50,000 more, I guess, for 2025, 50,000 more sales. And then taking a bigger jump of like, let's see, doing some quick math in my head real quick, of almost 1 million more sales in 2026. So 2026 looks like it's a rebound year. I tell you this because I need you to understand it's more important than ever to keep working. If you keep working, and we're going to talk about what that looks like, then you still have the ability to thrive in this business. So there's going to be roughly depending on your market, anywhere from 4,000 to, if you're in the bigger markets of Louisville and stuff, 8 to 10,000 sales this year. The only question is, what percentage of those can you get, right? But even in our smallest markets, looking at the Henderson market, they're still going to have, over 1,000 sales this year. So if they have 1,000 sales, that's more than enough for everybody in this room, if you work the Henderson area, to go and get whatever number of sales that you're striving to get. What it comes down to is we got to do the work. Right? We got to go to Julie's point. We got to find the motivated, because a lot of people might be casually looking, but we need to find the people who are serious and have a reason that they need to move to transact. Now, I'm not saying don't pay attention to the casual lookers. Those go on your pipeline. You continue to work those, and they're gonna eventually transact. I can tell you that, just as an example of that, I had a lead in my database that originally came to me in 2019 that Rebecca just put under contract 2 days ago. So the only question is, are you going to keep in touch with people? Are you going to keep working your database to make sure that you take advantage of those types of situations, right? It's only when we give up on people that sale goes to whoever the agent is, or whatever button they click on the online portal ends up with that person, right? So let's talk a little bit. Oh, one more piece of news before we talk about the training today. Some of you have heard of this. I just wanted to touch base on it. Kelly sent out an email to everybody about it, but BOIR filing. This is a filing where if you have an LLC, you do need to complete this filing by the end of the year. And it depends on when you actually started your LLC. So if you started your LLC before January 1 of 2024, then you have basically until the end of this year to file that report. If you started one this year, you technically have 90 days from the date that you started the ALC to complete this. And then from January 21, from January 1st, 2025 and beyond, if you start an LLC or an S Corp, just for clarity, then you have 30 days from that time to file it. This is all about money laundering, basically. So there's if you have, I think it's under $1 million in sales, if I'm not mistaken, or $1 million worth of transactions. It might be 5 million. I can't quite remember, but you basically have to file this report to make sure that you're not money laundry through multiple organizations. So if you need, there's multiple accountants that can help you with this. I actually did one of our companies myself the other day just to see what it was like. It's not hard to do. You just have to go to the website and do it. So, but the main thing that I need you to know is if you own an LLC, you have to do one for every LLC. If you don't have it done by January 1st, it can be up to $500 a day in penalties. So that's why I wanted to just make sure we highlight it real quick. Make sure you get this done. If you need some help, then don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I can connect you with my accountant or other people are doing it. Yeah, they're not bad. The key is you just got to know, like, if you have multiple owners inside the business, you need their information, basically, is all it boils down to. So, okay, let's talk training. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna do a little exercise here. So I need everybody to have their phones out, because you're gonna have to do some math. All right, we're going to talk about database. And there were some stats that I pulled up, and in a tough market, this matters more than ever. So did some research and found that anywhere from 64 to 78% of most agents' business come from their database. And you can see here, there's multiple surveys that say 64% of top agents throughout the whole industry. They say 66% comes from their database. At Keller Williams, if you look at the top 1% of agents, they report 78% of their business comes from their database. And understand, when I say database, I'm talking referrals, repeat business, or sphere of influence, past clients, things along those lines. So if that number is so significant, and all the top producing agents are at least at, just call it 60% or more, then we need to figure out what percentage of our business is actually coming from the database. And more importantly, what is the opportunity of business that our database provides? So I'm gonna have you do two things really quick. You can, I'm gonna come back to that. You can estimate numbers if you need to. I need you to write down first, or just do in your calculator, what is the total number of people you have in your database? Now, let me provide clarity behind this. If it's leads and you've never had a conversation with them, that's not what I'm talking about. That's a lead. You don't have a relationship. I'm talking about sphere of influence, people that you have a true relationship with, that you could pick up the phone, call, text, or email today, and most likely get a response, right? So write down, or just in your phone, put in what that number is. I guess actually, don't put that number in your calculator.
Common theme we've been talking about.
Yeah. Some of y'all have heard this before, right? So what I actually want you to put in your phone is, how many transactions are you going to close this year? I was about to tell you in the wrong order. So if you close 20 transactions, plug in 20, and then I want you to divide it by the total number of people that are in your database that you have a relationship with. So in one scenario, if you did 10 transactions and you had 500 people in your database, then you're going to do the 10 divided by 500. And in this made up scenario, you get 2%. So each of you should get a percentage that you have in there. Everybody got the percentage so far? Okay. That is your conversion rate on your database, right? So whatever
But
that.
hang on, but only for people that they've got their sphere, right? Not
Yeah.
like other resources.
Yeah. This is just your database, that is in your database that you have a actual real life relationship with. You have an actual real life connection with, right? So if you did a total in this scenario, 227 deals, and you had 15,000 people in your database, you can see the conversion rate is 1.5%. Okay. Now, each of you get to decide what percentage you're happy with. But I can tell you that roughly 4% of all the people, regardless of your location, roughly 4% of all the people are going to move in the next year. That means 4% of everybody you know will move next year. So you can also figure out how many transactions could you potentially do out of your database. So using this same scenario, you take the total number of contacts in your database, and the one online is 15,000, and then you multiply that by 0.04%. And that'll give you how many total transactions you could potentially do. In the scenario that I did earlier, if you had 500 contacts in your database and you multiply that by 4%, then that's 20 transactions. So just your database, not counting expires, not counting for sale by owners, not counting any other lead generation methods that you use. If you have 500 contacts in your database, you should be able to pull out at least 20 transactions next year.
You're doing it right.
Yes. Yeah. Well, just period. I mean, you gotta work. I mean, I think that's a given. That's a given. Yeah. So, I mean, you can't just have them in your database. That doesn't really matter. It's just a waste of time, to be completely honest. So what we're going to talk about next is, what are the 4 laws of lead generation when it comes to the database? Number 1, you got to have a database. Everybody knows that. That's the foundation of your business. It always will be. You can get as creative as you want, but the stats prove 60% to 80% of your business is going to come from your database if you work it. Which is number 2, you got to feed it every day. You should constantly be growing it. So not only should you have unit goals going into next year, but you should also have how you're going to grow your database and by what number. So if you have 500 people in your database, what do you have to do in order to get that to 750? What do you have to do to get that to 1,000? And how are you going to go about doing it and being strategic behind it? Number 3 is communicate with it systematically. I'm going to give you one simple solution for communicating with it systematically. So I'm going to circle back to that. And then number 4 is service all the leads. Don't forget to ask for business from your database. And whether it's that person buying or selling, or they know of somebody buying or selling, there's twofold here. You stay top of mind and you receive the referrals. And once you receive the referrals, work them until they're ready to transact, knowing that some people, when they're just kicking the tires of thinking about home ownership or kicking the tires of potentially selling their home, they could be 6 to 18 months away from actually transacting. But if you have a database and you do the follow-up that I'm going to talk to you about here in just a second, then there's no way they slip through the cracks. There's no way that they go to another agent, that they find themselves on an online portal and get some deal that they couldn't pass up. And then next thing you know, they're calling you. Now, I've received these calls before. They're not fun. Oh yeah, I just bought a house. So-and-so reached out to me and just happened to show it to me. So they wrote me the offer, right? Trust me, if you've never had that call, it's never a fun call to have. The only reason we have those phone calls is because we failed to do our quarterly calls. It's very simple. You can have 36 touch, you can have 90 touch, you can have 100 touch. There's one touch that matters more than every other one. And that is a simple phone call. It's not a text message. It's not an email. It's not a, hey, here's your market update, blast, website, anything along those lines. It's a simple quarterly call. And what I'm asking each and every single one of you to do, whether you're online or you're in person with me today, is to put every single person that you have a real human relationship with on the quarterly call plan inside your database, whether it's you set task or if you use command, you can just set up the smart plan. But you need to do that in order to survive and in order to thrive in 2025. Because remember, we know 4,000 homes are going to sell. The only question is, are you going to be in contact with enough people to get your unfair share of that 4,000? Right? So why call your database? Number one, build and strengthen relationships. People don't care how much you know until they know that you care. That's something that I'll always carry with me. And I think everybody in this room knows it's true. Simply calling and checking in with somebody shows that you care about them more than you care about the check that they made you. So that's part of it. And you need to care about people and actually strengthen the relationships. Two, you need to come from contribution. We talk about this a lot. Where can you come from value? Whether it's a market report, a home update, sometimes it's very simple. Hey, do you plan on doing any updates to your home next year? Well, I have a whole list of contractors that I would love to be your resource for, because trust me, we are the best Angie's List in the world. They wouldn't have created Angie's List if we would be doing our quarterly calls. And I sincerely mean that, right? So, and then number two is to stay top of mind for referrals and repeat business. Because if you're talking to somebody every 90 days, chances are they don't forget about you whenever somebody asks, hey, I'm getting ready to sell. Who helped sell your house? Or who do you recommend that you use? Other benefits is consistent communication drives engagement. As real estate agents, I'm gonna speak in generalities now. We suck at follow-up. We just do. It's just naturally part of it. If we don't have a system in place, then usually it's not going to happen. And that system is this quarterly calls. No matter how you set it up, no matter what CRM you use, you need something to trigger you to call Brad, to call Julie, to call Kevin, to call these people once every 90 days. Number two is simple check-ins can lead to new opportunities. So checking in with somebody, you might have just sold a house to somebody last year and you think, oh, well, I'm not, they probably don't need me. They're not going to move for another 4 to 7 years for the NAR. Well, guess what? Life happens. And y'all know the 5 Ds that forces motivation in sales, death, divorce, diapers, diamonds, and degrees. That could happen without us knowing. So again, checking in could lead to more sales. And then finally, a trusted agent is the first choice when buying or selling. It's not just about the person you're calling. You think about if you had a sphere of influence of 500 people, if each one of those 500 people have a sphere of influence of only 10 people, you now have a reach of 5,000 people, because they are going to be your biggest champions for potential sales from anybody else. So keep your sphere connected and watch your business grow. Any questions on that? All right, everybody, on the count of 3, what is our priority? It's in red up at the top, the last 2 words. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There you go. All right, so keep doing your quarterly calls, and then you'll be sure to thrive from here. Also, if you want to learn more and help get ready for 2025, we've already done this in our E-Town market, but E-Town people, you're more than welcome. If you didn't get to attend or you want a part 2, come on down. We would love to have you. This does not have the date on it, but it's next Thursday, December the 5th, if I'm not mistaken. I was going to say 6th, so I'm glad I corrected me. From 11 to 2, we're going to have our business blueprint, blueprint for success, where we're going to talk about setting goals. We're going to talk about strategic items on how to get there, as well as do some personal development and some other things. So be sure to come and tune in and check that out.
It's at my house.
Yep. All right. And then last thing, there is one broker open today for the Owensboro people.
Don't eat.
5111 Garnett Court. It's from 10:30 to noon. And then also, as a reminder, we do have our sales meeting and Thanksgiving potluck in the Owensboro office today starting at noon. So yes, if you do go to the broker open, then don't eat too much, because there's a lot of really good smelling food over there. So All right, so that's what I got. So here's what we're all gonna do. I'm gonna wrap up today, and I want you to all to go. We have, what time is it? Well, it's 10 o'clock. We have 2 hours until our potluck starts. I'm going to encourage you, we'll never hear me say this very often. I'm gonna encourage you not to go to that broker open because here's what you need to go do. You need to go and do quarterly calls with all of your sphere of influence. You need to start with your past clients. You need to call, check in, touch base, let them know that you still care about them and see if they have any needs. Ask them if they need some contractors, ask them if they know of anybody looking to buy or sell. And if you can spend the next 2 hours doing that, then I promise you, you'll build your pipelines and 2025 will be your best year ever. Okay. So everybody commit to doing those things. Okay. Awesome. All right. That's all I got. We'll see you at noon for the Owensboro people.